UK Bus Pass Shakeup 2025, pensioners and disabled face historic travel restrictions. This October 6th. On October 6th, 2025, the United Kingdom will witness one of the most significant changes to its concessionary bus pass scheme in decades. For millions of pensioners, disabled citizens, and individuals who depend daily on public transport, this is not just a bureaucratic adjustment. It is a fundamental change to how they live, move, and remain connected to their communities. The free bus pass has long stood as more than a symbolic gesture. It has been a lifeline, enabling access to healthcare, shopping, social gatherings, and essential services. It has played a key role in maintaining independence for those who might otherwise be trapped by financial or physical limitations. Yet now, the Department for Transport, in collaboration with local councils, has confirmed sweeping reforms that will reshape eligibility, travel times, and overall access. This shift marks a turning point. October 6th, 2025 will not be a routine policy date, but the day when the entire concessionary travel system begins operating under stricter national rules. Free bus travel, once a universal support for pensioners and disabled citizens, will become narrower, more conditional, and more closely tied to government priorities around cost saving and sustainability. Rising state pension age and growing pressures on transport budgets have been cited as the key reasons for these reforms, but for those affected, the impacts go far beyond spreadsheets and balance sheets. These changes directly threaten the mobility and independence of some of the nation's most vulnerable groups. To understand why this moment has arrived, we must consider the broader policy timeline. October 2025 is the month when multiple welfare and pension reforms come into effect, including adjustments to the state pension age. By aligning bus pass eligibility with the shifting pension age, the government argues that the system becomes fairer and financially sustainable. However, critics see this as a cost-cutting measure at the expense of the elderly and disabled, warning that it risks deepening isolation and inequality. Whether seen as reform or retrenchment, October 6th will mark the end of earlier thresholds and privileges, ushering in a new era where turning 60 no longer guarantees a pass in any part of the country. For many, this means waiting until the state pension age, now past 66 and steadily climbing towards 67, before qualifying. That translates to an additional 6 or 7 years of waiting for free bus travel. For those already struggling to meet transport costs during these years, the impact could be devastating. The nationwide standardization eliminates local councils' previous discretion in granting earlier eligibility, though councils will retain some limited flexibility to offer discretionary support. Even so, with budgets being squeezed, few expect councils to be generous. In fact, some metropolitan areas have already signaled further restrictions, such as limiting free travel during peak commuter hours, while rural regions face an even harsher reality: reduced bus routes that render passes practically useless, regardless of eligibility. Perhaps the most contentious change is the introduction of strict travel time restrictions. Passes will no longer be valid for peak hour journeys, typically restricting use to between 9:30 a.m. and 11 p.m. on weekdays, while remaining valid all day on weekends and bank holidays. For pensioners who depend on early morning buses to attend hospital appointments, part-time work, or community activities, this poses a major barrier. Councils may allow limited exceptions, but the general rule is clear. The free pass is being pushed away from times of greatest demand. For some, this will mean paying fares they cannot afford just to attend vital medical appointments or maintain employment. Disabled citizens will also feel the weight of these changes. While disability passes remain in place, new rules will enforce stricter medical assessments and evidence requirements. Where automatic renewals were once common, applicants will now face more red tape, longer delays, and even potential refusals. Disability rights groups are already warning that these hurdles could strip vulnerable people of their only means of mobility, cutting them off from society and deepening their isolation. The impact will be especially severe in rural communities, where transport networks are already under strain. Many pensioners in villages rely on the single bus service that comes once or twice a day. For them, the bus pass is not a convenience. It is a vital connection to groceries, healthcare, and social life. If routes are reduced further and travel restrictions limit usability, rural pensioners risk being stranded entirely. This is the very definition of a two-tier society: urban pensioners with reliable, if restricted, transport, and rural pensioners left with little or none. The financial motivation behind these reforms is clear. The government spends billions annually on concessionary travel, and with an aging population, costs are rising year after year. By tightening eligibility and imposing stricter conditions, officials project savings in the hundreds of millions. Yet these savings come with a social cost: diminished independence for pensioners, deeper isolation for disabled citizens, and mounting frustration for local councils forced to implement unpopular measures. Critics argue that while money may be saved on paper, the long-term consequences in terms of healthcare costs, mental health challenges, and social inequality will be far greater. As October approaches, pensioners and disabled citizens are being urged to act now. Those who already hold passes should check expiry dates, familiarize themselves with new restrictions, and contact local councils to explore possible exemptions. Those nearing pension age should prepare applications as soon as they qualify, since a surge in demand is expected to create delays. For individuals who rely on early morning travel, councils may offer limited exemptions, but these must be applied for in advance. Planning ahead will be essential because after October 6th, the rules will be applied strictly. The changes have already sparked a wave of opposition. Pensioner groups, disability charities, and unions are rallying in protest, warning that these cuts to free travel erode independence and risk increasing loneliness. Demonstrations are being planned across major cities, with campaigners demanding that the government reconsider. They argue that free travel is not a luxury, but a cornerstone of social inclusion, enabling elderly and disabled citizens to participate fully in society. Some even warn that rising isolation could place greater burdens on the NHS as loneliness and mental health problems grow. Under enough pressure, a government U-turn remains possible, but nothing is guaranteed. Looking beyond October 6th, these reforms may only be the beginning. Transport policy in the UK is increasingly tied to wider debates about climate change, urban congestion, and demographic shifts. Free bus passes, once seen as untouchable, are now firmly part of that conversation. Future governments may choose to restore benefits, tighten them further, or reinvent the scheme altogether. Pensioners, campaigners, and councils will need to stay engaged, vocal, and organized to ensure their voices shape the direction of policy in the years to come. As the countdown continues, one fact is undeniable. The concessionary bus pass is no longer the guaranteed benefit it once was. For some, it will remain a lifeline, though one more difficult to access and limited in scope. For others, it risks becoming little more than an empty promise. The actions individuals take now, checking eligibility, preparing applications, seeking exemptions, will determine how much independence they retain in the face of these reforms. October 6th, 2025, will mark the largest shakeup of concessionary bus travel in decades, and for millions across the UK, it will redraw the boundaries of freedom, mobility, and independence.